Okay, looks like you're good to go.
Okay, welcome everyone to today's Technical Advisory Committee meeting for MAG. And it's January 25th, 1:34. Any special introductions we need to make or public comments? Melanie or Chad, have you received any public comments?
I have not received any public comments, any notifications of public comments.
Okay, well, let's move right along.
Sorry, Steve, I just wanted to just let everyone know, since not necessarily everyone knows, but I have left American Forks.
Oh, you got muted, Aaron.
You got muted for a second. Yep.
Sorry, I'm representing Pleasant Grove City now instead of American Forks City. I'm Pleasant Grove City's new city engineer, so I'll be attending this meeting probably in conjunction with Marty or whatnot from time to time. So Marty won't be here today, but I'm here in his place.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Congratulations, Aaron.
Thank you. You're muted, Steve.
I think people are getting muted as we go, maybe just to make sure there's one talking at a time. Huh? Is there a replacement at American Fork yet that we have?
Rebecca Andrus, she's been on here before. She's the new city engineer there. So I think she's taking on this meeting, and Scott Sensenbauer is still there, the public works director. But I'm not sure if either one of them are coming or not. And Adam is still there in the planning department.
Yeah, I see Adam Olson on as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Any other items we should talk about before we move to item number 2? Okay, let's move to number 2, approval of the meeting minutes from October 26th. Any questions about the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
All right, motion by Ken Anson to approve. Do we have a second?
Steve, this is Brad Kennison, Lehigh. I'll second that.
Second by Brad Kennison, thank you. Any opposed to that? Speak now or raise your hand. Okay, we'll consider that approved. Okay, item number 3, chairman rotation and selection of new vice chair. This is much anticipated. No, by Brad, no, by all of us, right? Go ahead, Chad.
Okay, great. First of all, I'd like to express our appreciation to Steve for his good work as the chairman. He's been a great partner to work with, and we're just grateful that he's given the time and effort that he has to leading this committee. So I wish we could clap for him, but just know that we're clapping. There you go. Claps are happening. There you go, Steve. Virtual clapping. He's been great, and we love working with our chairman and of course his staff. Our hope is that we take the load off the chairman as much as we can. So thank you. As per our bylaws, what happens in this situation every 2 years is that our vice chair, who has been Mr. Brad Kennison, is now moving himself up, and he will become our new chair of our committee for the next 2 years. So congratulations, Brad. He'll be our new guy, and this also works with Steve. Steve's taken on a new role in American Fork City. I think he's now the assistant city manager, right?
Not American Fork.
Oh, sorry, Eagle Mountain. Sorry, my apologies. But he's done some great things there and is moving on. So, Brad, I'm going to let you take this meeting. We need to select a vice chair, and I think it would be then, Brad, if you would take nominations, and maybe we could come to a consensus on the new vice chair.
Okay, thanks, Chad. I appreciate your time. And yes, Steve, I saw all those smiles when it came time for you to pass over the baton. Well, I've served on this committee for a long time. I've really enjoyed the relationships that I built, and so it's a great opportunity for me. I appreciate that. And at this point in time, I'd like to accept any nominations that the members of the committee may have for a new co-chair. So go ahead and speak up at this point in time. And try not to all speak at the same time, right?
And maybe Brad, while we're waiting for nominations, I can just say that being the chairman, Chad was right. They've made it quite easy to be the chairman. MAG staff has been excellent, and I've had, they put the agendas together. I often ask questions and they're always quick to respond. And so, and then it's running the meeting obviously is fairly easy, and then just making sure that the right questions get asked and people participate. And the number one thing is you don't have to remember people's names because they're all here shown on the screen, which helped me quite a bit.
It's also okay to nominate somebody else that you see there that you think would do a good job, and maybe someone who doesn't have their camera on or something like that. That could be a motivation.
Chad, maybe it would be helpful. Maybe you can mention who some of the past chairs have been. I know, Richard, you've been a chair in the past, and it's always good to give someone else a good opportunity. But are there any other members that are on the call today that have been past chairs?
I don't think so too much. We've had kind of get turnover a little bit. I see Vern Kiesler's name on there, and Vern is a consultant. And when he worked at Provo years ago, he was a chair of our committee. Hugh Van Wagenen, who used to work with Linden City, is now off with the WFRC. He was a former chair, and of course Richard did a fantastic job when he was our chairman as well. So I think other than that, everybody's fair game.
Brad, I like the mix of having an engineer and a planner on as chairman and vice chair. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's kind of nice to have different perspectives. So I would almost suggest, either Dave Anderson or Jill Spencer or Adam at American Fork, or I don't know all the planners necessarily on here, but doesn't have to be a planner. That's just a suggestion.
I was going to volunteer Jill, but I thought she might not be my friend if I did that. But I think she'd be wonderful. Sorry, Jill.
I'll second that.
So that was an official motion, Mary?
Oh, that was, will you still like me if I say that? I think you'd be good.
I don't think anyone can dislike you, Mary.
Oh, Jill, I think you would be awesome.
So we do have a nomination for Jill Spencer. Do we have any other nominations that we'd like to consider? Okay, yeah, without any other nominations, I guess, but I don't know whether we have an actual second on that, but it seems like without any other nominations brought forth. What was that, Richard?
I said I'll second it, so it's official.
Okay, thank you, Richard. So I guess to move forward, then it sounds like that we have a nomination and a second for Jill Spencer to be the new co-chair for this MAG committee meeting. We'll go ahead and take a vote now. Are there any opposed versus us voting, all of us voting? Any opposed?
Let's make sure Jill's not opposed.
Jill?
I will accept that, Mary.
I'll do everything I can to help you, Jill.
Thank you,
Well,
Jill.
it sounds like it's all the MAG staff.
It is. That's why I said I can help.
Thank you, Jill. We appreciate you accepting that nomination. Any opposed? Okay, we'll just proceed with that then. Chad, I guess it's, let's go ahead and move on to item number 4, which is the transplant amendment number 1. Sean Elliott.
Okay, let me share my screen if I can. All right. I think you can see a map, right? Okay, so before you today is an amendment to Transplant 50. As you know, we do the plan about every 4 years, but in the meantime, we can make amendments to this plan. We had 2 amendments last year, and so this is our 3rd amendment on this plan that was just approved back in June of 2019. So the 2 amendments, the first one you can see on the map is for Pioneer Crossing through Lehigh. Right now in the RTP, we show in phase 1 widening that road to 6 lanes from Redwood Road all the way to 2300 West. There was discussion in the when we were developing the RTP to continue it all the way through. But because we were doing the North Lakeshore study, UDOT wanted to hold off on that until we had some more information. Since then, the traffic on that road has risen significantly, pre-COVID, of course, to over 40,000 trips a day, which is up in the Bangor Highway realm of things. And so what UDOT is looking at is possibly restriping the road and taking out some of the median and some improvements at the intersections to place that, to start looking for funding for a project like that. Of course, they'd have to do environmental work and work through all of that, but the first step is to actually get it into the RTP. And so this amendment is extending the limits of Project 20, which went from Redwood Road to 2300 West, all the way to 300 East, which is where the current 6-lane section terminates now, going toward American Fork. The other highlights of this amendment then would change the cost of that project to $13.6 million from the 5.9 that was in the plan for that smaller section or segment. We do have enough funding in phase 1 of the RTP to make that happen. On the air quality, we have done preliminary runs. We're still in the process of actually writing up the report, but everything looks like it should be fine for passing conformity for air quality. So the second project, are there any questions on that project, I guess, first? That part of the amendment?
Hey, Sean, this is Brad. I do have a question. How does this project and also the Santa Quin project, do they affect any of the other projects in phase 1 or phase 2? Does it shift their placement within which phase that they go in?
No, and again, I have a certain amount of money that I have in phase 1 of the plan. And again, this is planning money, so we're just making assumptions. But in phase 1 of the plan, I still had enough funding to cover the additional cost of placing these in phase 1. So probably here, if we continue to add projects, we might have to have a different discussion next time. But at the moment, we do have enough funding to make it work.
Sean, one thing I wanted to just ask about, and I know it's probably still pretty early in the whole process of how this would actually work, how the 6 lanes would fit, how much right of way, does it need extra right of way? Are we going to be widening, buying out any houses or anything like that around intersections? But one of the things that we realized is our 7th South cycle track was going to use Pioneer Crossing, the bike lanes that are on there, the shared lanes, to get over to the east into American Fork to the front runner station. So one of the things that we'd like to at least bring up and see if this could be part of as the planning goes forward, can we look at alternative routes so that our cycle track, as it gets over to Fifth West, and we have some ideas, you know, we think maybe we could just, there are a couple of small segments of our power line trail that I think if we, and we're, you know, the property is actually owned by Lehigh and UDOT. So with not a whole lot of, you know, extra work or cost or whatever, we could probably create an alternative route for people who are on bikes that use that cycle track. Anyways, something we definitely want to bring up and see if we could work together to figure out that issue.
Yeah, I think that as they do the environmental work, they need to look at what's in the long range plan. And so let's forward those discussions as we go forward so that we can make that connection. But yeah, I believe we can. All right. Amendment number 2, or the second part of this amendment, is in Santaquin. It's pretty cut and dry. The interchange with all of the new development around that area on Main Street is near failure, and it's 2 lanes under the interstate there. And so looking at ways to make it 4 lanes under the interstate, UDOT is proposing with the current bridge, the structure is in good shape, and they don't see in the next 30 years that they need to replace the structure. And so this project would actually take out the shoulders, the sloped, what do you call them, the shoulders, and make an additional travel lane under the freeway. And they're proposing at the moment to put in a split diamond or a divergent diamond interchange. But again, as they go further along in the design, they'll confirm that. So what they are asking is that we move it from phase 2 to phase 1 of the plan. This project actually reduced in cost because the phase 2 project was actually reconstructing the entire interchange, so tearing it out basically. Whereas this is keeping the current bridge in place and just reconfiguring it underneath. I'd say probably similar to what we did at SR 92 when they put in the divergent diamond there before we redid the whole freeway. So again, same things. The RTP, we do have enough funding. We actually reduced cost on this. And then modeling also, we don't see it being an issue, but we still are working on the final report. Any comments or questions on this one?
So Sean, on this one, then we are needing an action, right? A motion to either approve this or not approve.
Right. We were proposing that we recommend approval to RPC, barring no conformity issues with the final conformity report. But also we will go out to public comment. And so it would also be barring no significant public comments. And the definition of significant is that it doesn't change conformity. So if we get comments that change conformity, then we would have to relook at things.
Okay. Any discussion amongst the committee members then? Seeing none, then I would accept a motion at this point in time.
Brad, this is Richard. I'll go ahead and make the motion that the MPO TAC recommends to the Regional Planning Committee approval of the Transplan 50 Amendment number 1-21 and the associated air quality conformity determination to allow for UDOT to address congestion along Pioneer Crossing and the I-15 Santaquin Main Street interchange.
Okay, thank you, Richard. We have a motion from Richard Nielsen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, who was that on the second?
This is Norm Beagley with Santa.
Okay. Thank you, Norm. We have a motion from Richard and a second from Norm. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries then. item number 5, then let's move to item number 5, on the Open Meetings Act annual training from Chad. Go ahead and on that, Chad.
Okay, great. I'm gonna try and share my screen. If it doesn't work, I'll have Melanie do it, but hopefully mine will work here. Let's see. Can everybody see this PowerPoint that pulled up here? That
Yes.
says- Okay, good. I love it when things come together and work. It's great.
I can see all 41 slides.
You can see all 41 slides? I'm hoping you're just seeing the one slide right now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you. This is something that we're required to do once a year, and we thought we would do it. Plus, there have been some recent changes to the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act. So you can see this came from the Attorney General's office and is very recent. So it has a few things that we would probably need to modify as well in our meeting formats. And so we're providing this to you. In your document folder, you have the full PowerPoint and the act. It's so that you can enjoy some leisure reading on your own and enjoy the time with it. We're just going to cover a couple of things today and share some thoughts of things that I've noticed that have changed, I guess. So I'm going to see, hopefully this will scroll down now. Okay, there we go. First of all, the why. Obviously, it's important to make our meetings available to the public to create transparency and understanding and share with them the things that we're considering. It does hold our elected leaders accountable for the decisions we make, but it's important to have this open meetings follow a format that allows for the transparency that we have. This is part of a state law. The code is the 52-42-102, whatever thing that is there. And but there has been amendments made to that basically because of COVID and the situation that we're in. In this one, a public body is any administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body of the state or local government. And as TAC committee, we are an advisory committee. So that's where this comes into play and applies to this committee that we are part of here. We do have the top part talks about a quorum, and we have a definition of a quorum being 7 members in our bylaws, and so that's our definition that has been approved and met by this committee to represent a quorum. We're required to record the meetings, to have those proceedings that can be used and reviewed. Also, there are meetings that do not require all the participants or attendees to be in the same place, which is essentially what we're doing here today. And that includes the computer technology, Zoom or Hangouts or whatever it might be. This is kind of what happened. There was a special session of the legislature in 2020 that made some provisions that changed and modified things because of COVID. One of them is that we are not required to have an anchor location, where previously we did have that requirement. There had to be at least some place where people could come and participate. And now, because of the restrictions we have about gathering, the legislature changed that requirement so that we don't have that. It must provide, however, when we don't have our location, means for the public to hear, view, open portions of the meeting, which means an open meeting. You can have closed meetings, but in terms of TAC, we've never done that. We've always had open meetings because we haven't had items that were deserving of a closed meeting session. One of the things that's interesting is that it says the chair of the public body must make a written determination that conducting the meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. We have not done that. So that would be a change that we'd need to make. And it says in that written determination, you state the facts, and then the chair must read that at the beginning of each meeting. And it also says that the written determination expires in 30 days after the day on which the chair of the public body makes the determination. So it looks like we would need to, at this point, make a 30-day, every 30 days, every time we have our meeting, we would need to make a statement about whether we have a fixed location or why we do not. So that would be something that as staff will need to work through and have a statement to share that we can make notice in our meetings to meet that requirement. Any questions about that at all? Okay.
Chad, I noticed that our city council agenda now has a blurb on it at the beginning that states exactly that. And we don't, oh, I guess our mayor did read that in the meeting at the beginning. So
Okay.
yeah, something very similar. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're all trying to conform to these new rules. So we don't have closed meetings, so I'm going to kind of pass through this and talk about public notice. We're required to have 24 hours minimum public notice, and that says public notices must include the meeting date, time, and we do that. And it says if the meetings are scheduled over a year in advance, must give public notice at least once each year for the full annual meeting schedule. So we typically do that. We try and put a schedule together, and we have that, and we post it on the Utah Public Notice website. We do have that. This says at least one newspaper or general circulation paper must also print it, which we have not done. So that would be a change or something we need to look into a little bit more as well as we schedule our meetings. And those meetings change. So we put them out there, but sometimes we don't have items for those meetings and we might cancel them, which we do post on the Utah Public Notice website. So any questions about notice at all? Okay. And it talks about emergency meetings. We've done that too, where sometimes we have an item that needs to be approved and we'll pull together a meeting. And of course, with the technology we have now, this makes it much easier and more convenient to do as well. And then I think the last one I want to talk about is just minutes and recordings, and how you do that. If a no vote's taken, those things should be, we require those things: the date, time, place of the meeting, the names of the members present and absent. It says a record by individual member of each vote taken, and we don't do that typically. And I'm going to ask about that, because that seems like in the case where we're doing an advisory vote, that might not be as important. So we'll check and see if that meets the standard or not.
Chad, I was just wondering whether that's something that we could do just in the chat bar, for example. Whenever we have a vote, we could, each attending member could, I think we're talking about one member of each organization, right? Would be involved in that vote.
Yes.
Could we not do that as part of the chat?
We definitely could. That might be an option that we could look into and see how we could meet that. But that is the confusion of who represents the voting entity in that specific meeting that day. That would need to be predetermined by the group that comes. So.
Okay. I was actually wondering that when we took a vote on the last two items, it's not like I didn't call for a vote in the affirmative, because I wasn't sure how Melanie would know who voted what. So I guess maybe can we check on that and see what I should be doing?
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that. That's the way we've done it, and it's been a lot easier because typically our votes are just kind of an approval, yes or no, and we've had pretty much unanimous votes. It's been our practice in many things. If there were ever a time where we did not have a unanimous vote, we would then do a roll call vote, and that would be something we would want to make sure that we documented how that vote went. So we will look into that and maybe ask for some clarification on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Chad.
One suggestion, this is Rob Hunter with Provo. One suggestion that I've used in different types of meetings is a Google Doc where you could just list all of the entities, and then whoever the voting member is that's on the call can put their name and their vote in there. I found that to be easy in some meetings where we've needed to do similar things.
That's a great suggestion. Thanks, Rob. We'll look into that too. So I think that's pretty much what I have to share today. There's just kind of scroll through, but I think that's there, and it talks about chance social meetings. There's more there, and as I said, the whole act is on the back, and if you're wanting to read through there to make sure you're in compliance, it would be a good time to do that. They don't specify how our training goes, but we just wanted to highlight some points and to make sure that we did have some open meetings training this year, and this will qualify for that. So that's all I have, I think. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chad. So it kind of brings up a question that I have, and maybe Melanie can help me answer this. But for example, Lehigh City, we just hired a new traffic engineer, so I invited him to this meeting. But his name is Luke Siegmiller. But I'm guessing that that Melanie may not know who he is. How does Melanie know who each of these representative, each of the people on this call represent?
I can answer that if you want, Chad. So we have an email list that we send out. And on that list, Chad has worked with me to kind of separate voting members to those who just participate. So everyone who gets the Zoom link we'd consider like a voting member. Everybody else gets a calendar invite with the YouTube link. So that's kind of how we do that. If I have any questions with anybody, I'll definitely ask around, find out who this new person is. In regards to like keeping track of votes and that, the minutes will have a list of every single person in attendance here on the Zoom call. And so we will vote on something. We'll have that long list of people from the minutes, assuming that all of them, agreed to the motion, and those who opposed would be listed in the minutes. And if there was like a big discrepancy, then we'd go through everybody. So I hope that makes sense on how we keep track of everybody and those in attendance and voting.
Yeah, that's helpful. Do you know, Melanie, if on the YouTube, is there a lag?
I think there's maybe a 30-second lag. It's not very long.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, did someone else have a comment?
I was just going to say, Brad, when you do have new staff come that we don't know or haven't met yet, we would love to have an introduction or just a knowledge of that so we can add them appropriately to our list, representing you as you would like. So Luke, it's nice to see you, and but we'd love to have, if things do change in your staffing, like Aaron's move to Pleasant Grove, for instance, that's good for us to be aware of so that we can put you in the appropriate place.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Chad and Melanie. So let's go ahead and move to item number 6, other business. Do we have any business items that UTA would like to bring forward?
I just would like to let everyone know we've completed the locally preferred alternative for the Central Corridor Transit Study. And that's the next potential bus rapid transit line from Provo to Lehigh and the 7 cities that have been involved with that. I think we've given you all updates, but it's a really interesting project. It's an ambitious project, and we will be moving forward with the environmental. So that's what's up with that project. We also have South Valley Transit study that I think is turning out very well. We're still in the beginning stages, but I really appreciate the conversations and the openness that people are sharing their perspectives on transit. So that's a real positive spot. And then of course, Chad is leading on our Saratoga Springs Eagle Mountain study. So those, just a reminder, those are big studies we have going. I am happy to say that none of my bus operators have gotten coronavirus while working for UTA. We have a number of employees that have gotten the virus, but none of our operators have gotten them at work. And I feel really good about our best practices for keeping people safe. And I'm surprised at the number of people that are still riding, particularly UVX. So that's been interesting to watch, that it far exceeds what we had before we had UVX. and the numbers are still interesting. So 5,000 or 6,000 boardings a day seems small compared to the 12,000 that we were hitting before the virus. And yet that's still a significant ridership for us. So that's the report from UTA, unless anyone has any questions for me. Or Ken. Ask Ken a hard question, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Ken, got anything for us today?
You know, I think I'd have to say what Mary said was not really that difficult, but it's true. It's just amazing that people are still riding today. And I think it just shows how much people really like the transit, plus the way they really depend upon it. So we're really grateful for the cooperation that we get from all the cities and helping us put this transit on the road.
All right. Thank you, Ken. So item 6C then, our next TAC meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 22nd at 1:30. And I'm sure that we'll be receiving that information with the agendas and the minutes and everything. So unless anyone else has any other items that they'd like to bring forward to the TAC committee today, I'll entertain a motion.
I do have one other item, Brad, if I can.
Okay, yes, sure, Mary.
I have a standing ovation for Eric Rasband and his leadership on the Central Corridor Transit Study. It's really what Eric has done working together with Eric, UDOT, and UTA is really a model for the whole state about how we should work together. And I see lots of applause. Thank you, everybody. Eric's fabulous, and he will be continuing on in the next phase of the project.
We don't get to see Eric on the video. You can bow and we can salute you then, Eric. There we go. Thank you, Eric.
Mary. Thank you, Mary.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other items they'd like to discuss? I do want to point out that you know, this at the end of this year, it's already time to start you know, working on our idea forms for the next round of projects. So start thinking about those projects. I think Mag may be contacting some of you to start thinking about those. I think that's a good thing. Let's get those on our minds and get ready for that next round of approvals again. So thank you. I'll go ahead and accept a motion to adjourn.
Brad, I move to adjourn, or I'll
Okay,
second
thank
it.
you,
Who said?
I didn't hear the second, sorry.
I'll second. This is Norm.
Oh, Normal. We have a second from Norm. Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn until our next meeting on February 22nd. Thank you all.
Thanks, Brad. Congratulations, Brad.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. All right, everyone.